Hello, I'm Tom Wilson, and I'm here today with Adapt Productions, and we're going to be talking about assistive technology and its benefits and impact on the disability community. And my guest today is Drew Browning, who has some experience in this area. I'll let Drew introduce himself. Hello, Drew.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, we were just talking about the various hats I'm wearing, and one of them is as a user of assistive technology, but I also teach assistive technology at UIC, and I am very interested in it, always have been. I am retired from the School of Art and Design, where I taught industrial design and electronic visualization. So I've been doing it for a long time, and
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your personal use of technology.
Sure.
What areas do you tend to use technology in? Is it communication? Is it managing your living environment? What kind of things do you use technology for?
Yeah, all of the above. Obviously, the one big piece of technology I use is my wheelchair, which has all the bells and whistles, seat functions, and it goes into, I call it pseudo-standing. It's not a standing chair, but it is what Permobil calls functional reach. So it goes to a certain angle and then stops. Anyways, besides my chair, I have a adjustable bed. I have a lift, to what commonly called a patient lift, to get me in and out of bed.
Yeah, let me follow up on that.
Sure.
Is that how you would transfer into your wheelchair?
Yes.
And can you do that independently, or does that require assistance?
It requires assistance.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I would like, a lift that I could drive around, pick me up out of the chair, and I could just steer it. I've always thought that would be a good way to do it.
Yes, that sounds like an approach to explore. How about managing your living environment?
I definitely am into home automation, and so I have the ability to control my door lock, switch, light switches, my TVs, things. I have a small shop with equipment that, like a drill press and a 3D printer and things like that, that I also have the ability to control.
And these are voice activated for the most part?
Yes, I use Alexa, the Amazon voice assistant, So those are all integrated into my system.
Okay. And how, how does this Alexa manage everything? I'm sure there's some plugins involved, or is it wireless, or how would this system work?
Yeah, it's based on Wi-Fi, and so that connects through a home automation hub. And so each individual device connects to the hub, and then Alexa then sits on top of that and can control it rather than using my phone, which would be an alternative to just use the app and tap on and off for switches or adjust the brightness of a light.
Okay. Now, do you use ramps in your apartment or in your place?
No, well, yes, to get in the shower. My bathroom is not ADA accessible. I'd love a roll-in shower, but we built a ramp to get into. It's a walk-in shower, so I put a deck in and a ramp up the 4 inches that I had to get up to the deck.
Okay, so that's some pretty simple but important technology
Oh yeah,
there.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you control the shower by hand, or do you have voice control over that?
I don't, but that would be nice.
One question I know is that, many people with disabilities have economic challenges, of course. And what technology do you think would be most accessible on a budget? Do you have some ideas there?
Well, yeah, I would definitely recommend using a voice assistant because the technology is very inexpensive. You can get a Echo Dot Amazon basic unit for, I think it's around $25. And you can get multiples of those. So ideally, you'd want one in every room, so you can just address it there wherever you are. That's a definitely very inexpensive, but a computer is also probably the second most important, maybe the first most. Yeah, I would say it's the most important piece of technology for people with disabilities to have.
And all these controls could go through a laptop or computer, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's people that have speech impairments, and then there are other options, I think, available there. Do you have any suggestions in that regard?
For text to speech would, I mean, a lot of these things are built into the operating system of modern computers. So, in Windows, you definitely could do text to speech. That's easy to implement.
Yeah, Apple Talk, I think, is quite effective, right? From what I've talked to people that use it.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Okay, and in your work life, do you use technology at work?
Yeah, so right now I'm teaching online, so
Online, that's technology.
definitely.
Is that Zoom, or what is that system there?
Yeah, I use Zoom. So that's and I'm teaching the technology. So I teach microcontrollers in assistive technology. A microcontroller is like a small computer. You can think of it that way, although it doesn't have a keyboard, mouse, and display. So that's a technology that definitely can be inexpensive, but very powerful.
I was wondering if you have some ideas about where the future of transportation technology might be going for people with disabilities.
Sure. Intelligent cars, self-driving cars are definitely the way of the future, and I can't wait.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of freedom, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Okay, and how about, do you ever fly?
Not so much.
It's not very convenient, is it?
No, it isn't. I used to go to conferences all the time and fly, and it was common to be automatically upgraded, which was nice, be in first class, and I could. I used to use a scooter, and I could drive my scooter almost all the way to my seat
Yeah.
and just transfer there, and they'd take the scooter and put it in baggage right from there. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, it's a big hassle.
Yeah, those aisle chairs are pretty uncomfortable.
Right. So now if I fly, I put myself into baggage mode because that's the way you get treated.
Yeah, that's sorry to say. I know some people have talked with Senator Duckworth about the possibility of people staying in their wheelchairs and flying.
That would be ideal.
Yeah, the airlines, of course, oppose that vehemently because it would take out like at least 4 seats, I think, if not more.
Yeah,
4 or
but you
6.
can do it on trains.
Yeah, you can do it on trains. And they're not, I guess, quite as well. That's a good argument. Why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in your classes, what kind of technology do you have a focus on disability, or is it's much broader? It appears.
Well, yeah, I used to teach in the School of Art and Design. Now I teach in the Assistive Technology Unit, which is in Disability and Human Development Department, which is in the College of Applied Health Sciences.
Right.
So, yeah, now I've shifted. When I taught industrial design, I was more general. But I also did have an emphasis on disability or universal design. So I maintain that, but my students now are primarily occupational therapists, physical therapists, and special ed teachers.
So disability does come into it.
Oh, yeah.
How about the universal design? I'm not sure everybody would know exactly what that means. Could you elaborate just a little bit?
Sure. Design for all. When you design a product, you should be thinking of everybody, whether they're disabled or not, or male or female, or young or old. You want all products to be as accessible as they can. A good example is curb cuts. Curb cuts benefit everybody, although they really are thought of as a disability accommodation. You'll probably notice when they first designed curb cuts, they were like just wide enough for a wheelchair. And you'd notice people funneling down to the curb cut.
Everybody used it, yeah.
Yeah, and so you had to wait in line basically but now you'll see that wherever possible, the curb cut will wrap around the corner. Mm-hmm. So the entire area is ramped, which makes so much more sense.
So you've got the baby buggies, the scooters,
exactly.
Everybody using it, and people who walk seem to prefer them clearly too.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And teaching, back to the teaching, what kind of questions come up with the professionals like OTs and PTs in the area of technology? because I think OTs in particular would be ones that would be recommending it to their clientele. Is that correct?
Yeah. Surprisingly, I think all of my students tend to want to know what the current technology is and how they can benefit their clients with that technology. The hardest part, I think, is that it can be very technical, particularly the fact that you have to program a microcontroller. And programming...
It's not everybody's thing.
Exactly. But that, brings up one of the most current technologies is artificial intelligence. And it's been in the news a lot because now it's accessible to everybody through online websites.
GPT chat seems to be a big deal right now.
Yeah, GPT chat is one of the big ones right now. And that can be used to program even if you aren't a programmer.
Oh, really?
So that's going to be a big benefit in my field, I believe, and make the technology more accessible to everybody.
Okay.
ChatGPT does require you to type in or enter the text to tell it what to do or to ask it a question. But there will be voice interfaces, I'm sure. I'm sure they're already available. And essentially, using Amazon Alexa is artificial intelligence. Somebody has probably done it already, made Alexa work with ChatGPT, but I'm just beginning to look into it.
Right. Now, in your work with people with disabilities, is there one of the things that happens, not everybody, some people are born with a disability, some people acquire a disability. People who acquire, or even people who are born with them, usually go through some kinds of rehab processes. Is there a technology, how would I say, needs there that are being used or needs to be addressed? I'll elaborate maybe a little bit. I know Shirley Ryan, what used to be called the Rehab Institute, a lot of their research these days seems to be on technological things. I think clearly artificial limbs is one area. So that's clearly a technological issue. Do you have any thoughts about where all that might be going?
As people with disabilities, we will be able to control, in many ways, our own assistive technology. I'm a big believer in open source networks, open design, and the ability to create, build, modify those technologies for our own needs. So one of my research involves exactly that, open technology, open, when we say open, that means that it's freely available for other people to take that design, modify it, and republish it. Mm-hmm. So I've designed a number of switches. Switches are probably the most basic or fundamental technology. We use them to turn on lights. We use them, to control the seat functions on my chair. They're everywhere, but not everybody can use a standard switch. So switches often need to be accessible. So in ways that are individualistic. So the switch designs that I've done are parametric, meaning their parameters can be changed. And so those designs are published, put on a repository where anybody can access them and download the designs and change the parameters for their own particular needs. So that idea can be applied across all assistive technology. You mentioned prosthetics. People should be able to build their own prosthetics with 3D printers. It's actually being done now.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
and to bypass the medical model, which automatically makes it more difficult to get, makes it more expensive, and usually not customizable. So yeah, I'm very excited about the future of do-it-yourself assistive technology.
Yeah, 3D printing is one thing. Then are some of these things available off the shelf, easy to buy, that you could adapt, or would you say the 3D printing is the way things are tending to go?
I would say, yeah, 3D printing to as far as off the shelf, some people are doing that, doing distributive manufacturing, and they don't actually build things, but they organize and then sell, products that other people build.
I see. So it's putting things together.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. We've had interviewed people who are blind on our show for various reasons. And one of the things that's really, I think, improved their lives has been the technology so that in communication. Braille is still very important, but, the internet is crucial in everybody's life practically these days. And they've had to fight a lot to get access to the computer and, be able to turn written text into speech so they can understand, and other accommodations as well. On the political side, it seems like disabled people always have to fight for everything that they get. How do you think that's going to work with this technology in the future? I mean, we talked a little bit at the beginning about some people cannot afford too much technology out of pocket, but really Department of Rehab Services and state agencies that serve people with disabilities ought to be growing the opportunities, I think, to use technology. I know people that, I'll give a simple example. You were talking about the freedom of the wheelchair and the importance of it. People have had to wait months to get their wheelchairs repaired on Medicaid.
Yes.
Getting new chairs. They're told that their chairs are supposed to last 8 or 9 years. When you're using them, let's say 16 out of 24 hours a day, that's almost unrealistic to think that they're going to last that long. I mean, automobiles don't even last that long in many cases, right?
Yeah.
So, I think there's a need to educate the providers that these needs are immediate and need to be met, and that they need to keep up with the changes in technology, perhaps.
Oh yeah. I'm more familiar with the insurance side of things, but it's certainly related, and my understanding is Medicare sets the basis by which these programs and state programs or otherwise, and insurance companies decide what they're going to pay for and what they won't pay for. So with wheelchairs, for example, a seat elevation, which I use every day to be able to reach things,
Right.
will not be paid for by insurance because Medicare won't approve it. So those are things that are changing, but will require a lot of advocacy to make that change happen. Seat elevation should be fundamental.
Yeah, and I know I have a friend who lived without it for a long time, finally was able to get it, but I was only able to get it because the airlines ruined their wheelchair. And when they got the chair replaced, the airline paid for the needed accessories. So,
we were talking about standing feature, which is really important, but it also is not covered.
Very few people get that, and it's good for your circulation and
absolutely.
Musculars and musculation or whatever.
But I do think also that open source technologies are going to impact even wheelchair things because, and also, the ability to modify your own technology. If you own it, you should be able to change it. So there's a right to repair movement happening as well.
Oh, that's interesting. I grew up on a farm, and they sell tractors these days, and farmers used to repair their own tractors.
Sure.
They're not allowed to anymore. They can be sued or taken to court if they mess with their tractor. They own it, but they don't control it.
Yeah, that's not right.
Yeah.
And likewise, we should be able to modify our wheelchairs. As long as you know what you're doing, you should be able to do that.
Right. Okay, I think we've covered a lot. Do you have anything else you want to bring up today?
No, I think that
covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Well, I hope our viewers got a little bit of a picture, and I want them to think about what's possible, I guess,
Sure.
widen their view of what's possible, and hopefully lead to a better quality of life for people with disabilities.
Yeah, I would suggest that there are websites that would be good to look into if you're interested in the open source movement and what people can do for themselves with technology. Two of the most important ones I would say is AT Makers. Search for that on
AT Makers. Huh?
AT Makers, Assistive Technology Makers. So that's taking advantage of the maker movement. Makers are people who like to make things, and particularly with technology, and also are considered do-it-yourselfers. And so I mentioned repositories of open source designs. A good one there is Thingiverse, Thingiverse.
Thingiverse, okay.
Yeah, you'd think it would be pronounced Thingiverse, but I think they pronounce it Thingiverse. There are other repositories like that where you can download technology and print it out on your own 3D printer. Another one out of Canada is Makers Making Change. So both of them not only bring together people interested in technology, but they also try to organize how things get built, because as a person with disability, you might need something but don't have the ability to build it yourself. You need help. So finding a friend to do it is often the way to do it. But these organizations are, in the case of Makers Making Change, they have volunteers. They ask people to volunteer to help make things for people
Okay.
based on those open source designs. And AT Makers goes into the school system, and they will ask robotic clubs or different organizations within the educational system to help make things for people with disabilities.
Yeah, I think some libraries have access to 3D printers and
Yes.
training too. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And there are a lot of maker spaces, they call them, independent maker spaces in Chicago.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered it all today, covered a lot. And thank you, Drew, for coming. And maybe in the future we can have another show or talk about a little more about technology.
Sure.
Thank you again.